Today we are going to do a pre-trip on the tractor only. So you start off, come up here to the front, and you look underneath it. Make sure there isn't any fluids draining on the ground. Look to make sure your lights are working, headlights, turn signals. Look at the top, you look for the windshield wipers, make sure they're in place. Make sure the clearance lights are working. Make sure there's no damage to the front of the truck. No visible cracks in the windshield. Come over here and you unhook the hood release on this side. Unhook the hood release on this side. This one sticks on this one side, so you gotta pull it up that way. Come to the front. Open the hood. Now you go to the front, you go into the engine compartment, check the fluids. Oil. Check the antifreeze level. Check all your belts and hoses, clamps. Make sure everything's in place. Nothing falling off. Everything's tight. Check your steering wheel. Make sure, or your steering column. Make sure there's no play in it. Check your Davco fuel filter. Make sure that it is okay to go. Make sure it isn't full of fuel. If it's full of fuel, that means it needs replaced. Come over here to the other side, do the same thing. Got windshield wiper fluid. Check your air-to-air clamps, make sure they're all tight. Check all your hoses, check your belts. Make sure they're tight, make sure they're not frayed, make sure they're not cracked. Check your hoses, your antifreeze hoses. I like to go to the other side now and check and start at the other side, the brake chamber. So I always start at the driver's side. I don't know why, but I just do. Anyway, checking the frame, make sure there's no cracks, illegal welds in it. Check your gearboxes. Check your tie rods. Make sure they're in place. You always check these nuts. Make sure there's a cotter pin in them. That way you know they're not going to come loose. See the cotter pin right there? Nuts. Alright, there's 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. Check them. Make sure there's no illegal welds on the leaf spring. Make sure there's no cracks in it. Go down here. Brake chambers. Air. Your air chambers. Make sure there's no cracks in the lines. Make sure that everything's hanging properly. Nothing loose. Go down here to the inside. You're checking your rotors. Make sure there's no cracks or welds on the rotors. Make sure everything looks good. Your brakes, your brake pads. Make sure there's no cracks in your brake pads. You're checking all your assembly. You're checking the inside of your rim. Make sure there's no cracks or welds in the inside of your rim. Check the tires. Make sure everything looks good. Should be even wear across the top. Should be even wear. Has to be 4/32 in tread depth. Go to the outside of the tire. You're looking at the hub. Make sure there's nothing leaking in the hub. No oil. Go to the rim. Make sure there's no illegal cracks or welds. We always have to check the lug nuts physically by hand. Check every lug nut. Make sure it's not loose to the touch. Now we'll go to the other side. Do the same thing where we just did. We do the same thing on this side. Check for your cotter pins. Check your tie rods. There's a cotter pin there. Check your tie rods. Check your shocks, make sure they're in place, they're not leaking any oil. Inside of the tire, same thing. Check your rim, make sure it's not cracked or any illegal welds on it. Checking the rotors, make sure that they're okay, they're not no cracks or welds on it. Check the brakes, make sure they're not cracked or any illegal welds. Check the hoses, make sure they're not cracked. You're checking all the connections, air to air. Checking all this, checking all the hoses and everything. Come to the side, make sure your turn signal's working. Make sure all your mirrors are connected and tight. No cracks, no damage on the truck itself. Checking everything. You're checking the fuel tanks, both sides. You're checking the straps, make sure they're strapped down, they're not broken, the straps aren't broken to the fuel tank. Checking the condition, overall condition of the side of the truck. Check your APU, make sure it's intact. Looking at all the dadgum shocks back here, make sure they're working, they're up and no oil leaking out of them. Airbags, make sure they're up. Overall condition of the back of the cab you're looking at the catwalk, make sure it's all in place. Looking at the half fender, make sure it's in place and tight. Looking at the tires, even tread, no less than 2/30 seconds on the rear. Do the same thing on the back. You're looking at the inside, looking at the rotors, make sure there's no crack or welds on them. You're looking at the inside of the rim, make sure there's no crack or weld on it. You're looking at the brakes, make sure they're okay. Looking at the U-bolts, make sure they're intact and tight. You're looking at all the air lines, you're looking at the brake chambers, you're looking at the shock absorber, make sure there's no liquid coming out, no oil coming out of them. Make sure they're tight and in place. Airbags, make sure they're all up and in tight and in place. Look at the leaf spring, make sure there's no illegal cracks or welds, front and back. U-bolts, you're looking at them, make sure they're tight, in place. You look at the very back, same thing. You're looking at the inside, you're looking for cracks or welds on the inside of the rims, you're looking at the rotors, make sure there's no cracks or welds on there. You're looking at the brake pads, make sure they're good, no cracks or welds. You're looking at the air lines, you're looking at all the hoses, no illegal cracks or welds. You're looking at everything. See how they got them little things to keep them off of the metal parts? Hoses have to be off of all metal parts. That's why they have all them little clamps on there. Make sure that there's no hoses or wires touching any metal parts. Get the inside between the tires where they bud together. No illegal cracks or welds. Front and back of the drives. Now on the outside, you're looking at the hubs. Make sure there's nothing leaking out of the hubs. You check every lug nut. Make sure it's tight to the touch. No illegal cracks or welds on the outside of the rim. Tires, make sure they look good. Same thing on the back. Touch every lug nut. Make sure it is tight to the touch. No fluid coming out of the hubs. No illegal cracks or welds. Come to the back. Mud flap. You're looking for DOT tape across the mud flap. Both sides, mud flap. Looking at the lights, make sure they're working. You're looking at all the bag. You're looking at the pumpkin. Make sure there's nothing leaking out of it. You're looking at the drive shaft. Make sure everything looks good there. Do the same thing on this side. Inside, check it all that we did on the other side. You're checking the inside for illegal cracks or welds on the rotor, illegal cracks or welds on the rim. You're looking at the shock, make sure it's in tight and in place, make sure there's no fluid coming out of it. Looking at all the airbags, make sure they're up. Looking at all the lines, make sure there's no cracks in the lines. Make sure everything's tight. Even tread wear, no less than 430 or 232nds on the drive tires. Looking at the backs, looking at all the airbags. Same thing on this front one. No illegal cracks or welds. Rim, no illegal cracks or welds. U-bolts, everything tight. Shock, nothing leaking out of the shocks, everything's tight. Inside of the buds, no illegal cracks or welds. No illegal cracks or welds. Touch every lug nut. Make sure they're not loose. Checking the outside of the rim, no illegal cracks or welds. Same thing on the front. Touch every lug nut. Make sure they're not loose to the touch. No fluid coming out, no illegal cracks or welds on the rim. Half fender, it's in place, tight. You're looking at the fifth wheel. Make sure the jaws are open. Make sure it is ready to accept the trailer. It's down, the back's down. Everything looks good there. You're looking at the slide. Make sure there's no cracks or anything on there, cracks or welds. Make sure there's no missing bolts where the fifth wheel is connected to the frame. Make sure there's no illegal cracks or welds in the frame. You're always looking for that too. It's illegal to have welds on a frame. And of course you can't have cracks. Here on this side, you're looking at everything. Looks good on the fifth wheel, the slide. All the bolts are connected. Hoses, everything looks good on the hoses. No cracks in the hoses. Everything looks good there. Okay. And you come to the side. Of course, you look in the back here at the tank. You're looking at the straps. Make sure they're in place and not broken. Pigtails, air lines. Make sure everything looks good there. Check to make sure they got the rubber grommets in them. Come to the side. Blinker working. Fuel tank. Make sure it is connected and there's no broken straps. Come to the inside. You're looking at the permit book. Make sure all your permits are there. You're looking at the DVIR. Make sure there isn't any current DVIR write-up that you have to address. Come to the side box. You're looking at the fire extinguisher. Make sure it is in the green, which it is. Fire extinguisher. When you get to the inside, okay, you're checking the windshield wiper. Turn the key on. Checking the windshield wipers. Make sure they work. City horn, air horn. Make sure it works. You're looking at all your blowers. Make sure your blowers are working. Now you do a slab test. I'm not going to do a slab test. We'll address that at another time, but that's an air brake test. Should be an extra log book up here. Right here, in case your ELD fails. Gotta have that extra log book. That's your ELD, right there. Well, that's your ELD, right there. If that fails, you have to log by hand like we used to. Alright, now let's get to the other side. I got to show you the triangles yet. And then we're pretty much done with the truck pre-trip inspection. Triangles right there. Well, if I can open the dadgum thing. There. Alright, there they are. 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. Make sure they're all there. Alright, that concludes the pre-trip. Thank you for watching. That's what we got to do every day before we start the truck.